Okay. We're holding on page 10 on Yudamid base. It's in a traditional Gemara. It's right in the middle of the page. Tanya. The line starts Balav Hochinami Elaharu Gilud, and it says Tanya. We thank Hashem that you're able to learn Torah every day. The source of our learning Mishal Beis Mikdash. Immediately, and we're learning the Nishma Sava Golda Basra Daf and Salas Ben Tzion, and first time for Daf Ben Sarah. And Gedalia gets a little Yasser Ben. Thanks for brother. Amen. Tanya was started in a brisa. We've been talking about tzedakah last day or two. Amalam Rabbi Yechim Zaka Talmid of Rabbi Yechim Zaka says to his students. Rabbi Yechim Zaka, the Mishnah tells us, had 5 students, right? One I Mahu Shamar Akasav, he says, what's the meaning of the verse? My sons, that's how he speaks to his students. He says, Tzedakah Treimim Goy V'Cheslim Chatas, that charity or righteousness elevates the nation, and kindness for the nations is a sin. So we're going to see what this means. Nena Rabbi Eliezer ben Horkenes. Rabbi Eliezer Gadol is the author of the Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer. So he starts first. He says, Tzedakah Treimim Goy, who's this referring to? That the charity elevates the nation, the one nation. Elu Yisrael, that's referring to the Jewish people, that charity elevates them. Mikamcha Yisrael, Gayach Barat. 2 verses, one is Mikamcha Yisrael, and Mikamcha Ki Yisrael. Who was like you, who was like the nation, like your nation Israel, one nation on the earth. That's referring to the God. But a kindness to the nations is a sin. Any charity or kindness that the nations, the idolatrous nations, they perform, it's a sin for them. They're only doing it just to get attention, just to make themselves great.
So attention that we give, kindness that we give to Goyim.
No. When the nations of the world do acts of kindness, they're not really doing acts of kindness. They're doing something to make themselves. Just there's some agenda that they want. They want to make themselves. The Red Cross going to some place. I don't know what the. I don't know any of that stuff, but let's just say. Commission Emar, as the pasuk says, D is that. The lahavin me hakrafim nichaychim l'koshmaya. That you bring sacrifices to the God of heaven, and you pray for the life of the king and his family. So in other words, yeah, sure, you bring sacrifices, but the agenda there is that the king will have a long life or whatever. So utilitarian. One second, what's the problem with that? Big deal. So he's going to gain something by giving tzedakah? Okay, so what? Vatarni, we have a brisa that says clearly that this is acceptable. This is considered even a tzaddik gomer. He gives tzedakah. Someone gives tzedakah and he has a personal agenda. That's perfect. That's fine. Gemara says like kasha. It depends who's doing it. If it's a Jew or a non-Jew. Now, this doesn't sound fair. But the explanation is like this: that if a Jew gives tzedakah and he has an intention to gain something from it, so even if he doesn't get that benefit, but he still won't regret. He won't regret the charity that he did. He says, "Okay, okay, at least they did the mitzvah. Then but when a non-Jew does it, he'll regret the charity that he did because he didn't get the result that he wanted. So that's why it's not counted. It's erased the Gemara Kedushin. Yeah, so we're saying that the Jew won't wish that he hadn't done the mitzvah, but the non-Jew will. So, yeah, okay. The Baal Shem Tov has a nice pshat about giving tzedakah for that not lishma. If you don't give your mitzvahs, you're supposed to do it for the right sake. But if someone does tzedakah for personal gain, he wants to get them certain blessings, so he gives tzedakah. So Baal Shem Tov says, yeah, because there's also the recipient of the tzedakah. And the recipient of the tzedakah always accepts it lishma, even though the one that's giving it maybe doesn't, but the one that's receiving it is receiving it because he needs it. What is the purpose of tzedakah? The person has his needs met. So,
It's from Hashem anyway.
yeah. Okay, that was answer number 1 from Rabbi Eliezer ben Horkenes. This is the teacher of Rabbi Akiva. And the next one is also a teacher of Akiva. All the students here are teachers of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Shua says, tzedakah treimim goy. What does it mean that the tzedakah elevates the nation? Eli Yisrael, referring to the Jewish people, who was like you, who was like your nation Israel, one nation. Chesed lumim chatas, but the sin for the kindness for the nations is a sin. Called tzedakah v'chesed shumas become oisin cheitulem. It's a sin. Any kindness that you do, shein la'oisim melkadesh itmash malchusim. They're only doing kindness so that their kingdom should continue. Shenemar lahain. It's therefore Malka, the king. Malki yishbar alayach. My advice to you should be good. Yishbar is good, beautiful or nice. You should redeem your sins with charity. And your other sins, with being kind to the poor. That way you'll extend your serenity. Your peaceful, your calmness will extend. Which means that they're doing it just so his kingdom should last longer. And then Ram Gamliel responds. He says, that the tzedakah elevates the nations. The nation, not nations, which is referring to the Jewish people, which is, as the verse says, who was like your nation Israel. Ram Gamliel wasn't one of the 5, but he was in the same generation.
So this is the one that the Alter Rebbe quotes.
Yeah, but it's only because they want to.
What?
About giving stuff for babies.
That was the one right before. This was in chapter 1, at the end of chapter 1. By the way, I have an old Tanya at home that skips this. It was deleted and they censored. Wow. It's an old Tanya. It's from 1861 or something. And it was the 31st to 32nd print. It's missing in the back, in the tag, in the descriptions of each print of Tanya. It mentions that this is missing.
Different parts were added.
No,
because Alter Rebbe was attacked by the when the government when he was arrested. One of the questions that he didn't answer was
There were false copies.
yeah, that was something else.
No, that's not related.
But this is, they said, explain what you mean when you say that everything that the nations do is a sin. He didn't answer that question. Yeah. I don't know what they care. They have those guys.
No, that's in the.
Yeah, that's another section of Tanya. Yeah. This is chapter 1 of the beginning. So it's only that only makes them arrogant. And anyone that's arrogant falls into Gehenna. Shnemar Zayd Yahir Late Shemai, a proud and arrogant. It's called the late. It's called a scorner. Isa be'evras zadin. He does with an arrogant wrath. Vein evrel gehenim, and ever means and there's no wrath other than in gehenim. Remember, yom evra yomahu. Says the day of wrath. The day of wrath is that day, which is referring to the day of judgment in gehenim. Amar Rabbi Gamliel. So this was Rabbi Gamliel's answer. However, Rabbi Gamliel says, we can't get away from the Rabbi Lazar Meidai. Lazar Meidai was another great sage. He was the nephew of Bar Kochva. He was one that was killed by Bar Kochva. The Beitar, no, so Beitar was being protected because he was davening, and then Beitar was the city.
No,
By the
south of Jerusalem.
It was a stronghold of against the revolt and the revolt against the Romans.
70 years after.
So he says we still need the Maidai. We don't have a lot of statements from Rabbi Elazar Maidai. We have one in Pirkei Avos. We have one. It's not so common. It says tzedakah treimim goy. That tzedakah elevates the nation. Which nation is that? Eli Yisrael. This is the Jewish people. And the kindness of the nations is a sin. Any kindness that they do is a sin. They're only doing it just to insult us. As it says, this is the general of Nebuchadnezzar is saying, Nebuzaradan is saying, and he came and he did, Hashem did as he spoke, it's because you sinned, the reason why you're being destroyed is because you didn't listen to his voice, and that's why this is happening to you. In other words, all they do is insult the Jewish people, and even their kindness that they do is just to insult. Then Reb Nechuni ben Akana, Reb Nechuni ben Akana. What do we have from Reb Nechuni ben Akana? Besides for the maybe the Sefer Abahir or something. We also have, I think, one section of Shemon Esrei, maybe Elikai Netzar, maybe the last paragraph is Reb Nechuni ben Akana. What about Ana B'Kayach? That may also be Reb Nechuni ben Akana.
What about on the board?
Who is the author of Ana B'Kayach? Yeah. I think it's Reb Nechuni ben Akana. So, Nechuni ben Akana says, Tzedakah treimim goy v'chesed. He divides this up a little bit. Tzedakah treimim goy v'chesed liYisrael. The charity elevates the nation, and kindness. This is only for Israel. And what happens for the nations is chatas, is a sin. So he takes the whole kindness out of the nations. He doesn't even have kindness there. He just says charity and kindness elevates. So it'd really be like tzedakah v'chesed treimim goy. That's how it would be, but it doesn't. Tzedakah treimim goy v'chesed. The same thing applies to chesed. And lo'umim. I'm sorry.
Righteousness.
Yeah, that's what we're saying. In the nations, it's just sin. Amla Rabbi Yechim Zakan l'Talmidav. Rabbi Yechim Zakan says to his students, "Neir divrei Rabbi Nechuni ben Akana midivreichem." Rabbi Nechuni says, "Pshat." His commentary is better than my own and better than yours. Because he gives a pshat is that tzedakah and chesed is for the Jewish people and for the nations is only sin. Now the Gemara says mechlal, but this implies the way Rabbi Yechim exactly said that his pshat is better than mine and better than yours. Mechlal duhu nami amar. So obviously Rabbi Yechim Zakkai also said a pshat, and we didn't have that listed. Mahi, what was the pshat of Rabbi Yechim Zakkai? What was his commentary? Tanya started in a brayso. Amalam Rabbi Yechim Zakkai. Rabbi Yechim Zakkai, he explained that Shem Shechatas Mechaperes Al Yisrael, just like a sin offering atones for the Jewish people, so too kindness charity will atone for the nations. Jewish people bring a sacrifice, and the nations can do charity for atonement.
Programs that were offered for super. They were accepted because
It was on their behalf. What do you mean? We accept sacrifices from
Yeah.
nations. They can bring a sacrifice.
but based on
He's asking that based on what Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai says, that
No,
a
you can.
chatas, but no, a chatas atones for the Jewish people. He's asking, so how does a non-Jew bring a sacrifice? I don't think they bring a sin offering. They bring a donation offering, not a sin offering. They send the oila, elevation offering. Ifra Hormis, we had her a few days ago. Remember, she sent money to Rava, I think, said to do a great mitzvah with it. Remember? Mitzvah Rabbah. Said my mitzvah Rabbah. What page was that on? 8A. It says mitzvah Rabbah. Yeah, the bottom of 8A. What's the mitzvah Rabbah? We said it was 15 shveim. How much did she send? She just said she sent a purse. Okay, anyway, now she sends to Rabami 400 coins. Like Kablino, he doesn't accept it. The general Kamid Rava, she sends it to Rava Kablino, and he accepts it. Mishum Shalom Malchus to make peace with the government. Doesn't want to insult her, and reject the money and say you can keep your money. Shamar Rabami hears what happened, and he gets upset. Amar Leslie, don't you hold of Yavish Katsira to Shabrena when the harvest dries up, gets broken off. Nashim Bais Mirsaisa, and the women come and light it on fire, which basically means that that you want the nations to finish all of their credits. You don't want them to have too many merits. So you don't assist them. You let them dry out and just wither away, and then But so why was Rava giving them extra merits? Rava Mishum Shalom Malchus. Rava held that Shalom Malchus, peace with the government, is very important. Rabami Nami Mishum Shalom Malchus. What about Rabami? He also holds that there's a concept of Shalom Malchus. He held that Rava should have given it, even though you want to make peace with them, and that doesn't mean you have to distribute it amongst the Jewish poor. You can give it to the non-Jewish poor, right? So and the Gemara says Rav Nami, and Rav actually did that. So why was Rabami upset? Rabami the because they didn't tell Rabami the whole story. They didn't tell him what he did with it. Yeah, there was this yeshiva that's got a big donation from one of their neighbors that was a non-Jew. And so they took the money and they used it for toilet paper for like many years, many years. That's what they told at least the Bachram.
So if we give money to like an African nation.
No, we're allowed to give. We're talking about, are you allowed to take? Yeah, should we, question is, this is a interesting point. Should we be taking money from a non-Jewish society, to support the Jewish poor? No, we're giving money. We give money to the poor. Yeah, we do it. We give money to the nations, but there's two opinions. If when we give a charity to a non-Jew, it says Mishum Eva, Mishum Darki Shalom, one of those expressions. Question if that is an intrinsic value that we have, or if that's just so they don't get angry at us, or is it like a secondary? But definitely we give charity to Yeah. This whole thing, your city first, your family first. Yeah, this. I'm not saying that there's any priority in it.
But isn't this the government?
Right. I'm sorry.
Isn't this Orm is part of the government? She's like the mother of the king.
Yeah.
I mean, we accept money from the government all the time, right? That's like Satmar communities.
Right. Right. The Satmar community doesn't accept money from the Israeli government, but from the American government, they accept money.
Yeah, and apparently even in Israel, it's only from the federal, from the municipal government.
So it's not because they're extra strict about this Gemara not to accept that because in America they accept money from the government.
Oh yeah, I mean more like
Most sheep take money from the government. Yeah.
Yesterday we're discussing about rights.
Yeah, I guess the answer to that, Hill is asking that maybe they should assume that this is the way Hashem is sending them the money through the non-Jew. I think the way that they would put this is that Hashem's going to send me the money. Let him send it to me through the correct route. We don't do. All right. Someone doesn't say. So let's say someone's walking by the bank, and he looks. He sees, my gosh, they left the safe open. Wow, such a shkacha pratis. I needed money, and the safe is open. You don't say that it's a shkacha pratis that you should go take the money.
No, but it's a little bit different.
It's all the benefits of safe is open.
Right.
There's some non-Jews that love Jews.
So that could be an interpretation. There could be that today we don't view. See over here, it keeps saying the nations, the idolatrous nations. Could be today we consider the people to be like a ger taisha, they're not idolatrous people. It doesn't have, maybe they don't have the same status like that. They're people that they believe in God and they don't worship idols and they have similar values to what we have in life and all of that. Right. Okay, Tanya, starting a Bryce on top of page 11. Yud Aleph. Amru Allah al Binyamin Atzadik Sheimuman al Kubit Sel Tzedakah. I don't have other references for Binyamin Atzadik. I don't know if he's mentioned in other places. Does it say on the side?
It says it appears to have lived during the Amorai period. Alternatively, it might be a Tana of Rabbi Binyamin, student of Rabbi Akiva, or Tana of Abba.
Okay, so it seems he's unclear. It's unclear like when he lived, but they said about Binyamin Atzadik, he was a charity. It was in charge of a charity. Shaimun al Kubit Sel Tzedakah. One time, Basi Isha Lafan of a woman came to him. B'shnei B'tzayros. It was years of famine. Amrullah, she said to him, Rebbe Parnaseni, Rebbe, feed me. Amrullah, he says to her, Ha'avuda. It's the fact is, Shem B'kupa Shel Tzedakah Klum. There's nothing, not a coin in the charity in the fund. Amrullah, she says to him, Rebbe, Yemenatim Parnaseni Risha V'Shiva B'nai Mesim. You don't sustain me, then a woman and 7 sons is going to die. I'm going to find some Mishalai. So he stood up and he gave her from his own money. Some days went by. Chala, he got sick, but not the lamas. He was on his deathbed. Amr Malachi Asher, the angel said to Hashem, the master of the world, Ata Marta, you said, whoever sustains even one soul, it's as if they sustain the whole world. Binyamin Atzadik Shehechia Isha V'Shiva Manah. He sustained the woman and her 7 sons. Yamas B'Shanim Atzalal should pass away in such small, short time. Miyad immediately Karlig Zardina, they tore up the decree on him. And Tana was taught in a Bryce that he lived another 22 years. I have on the side of my Gemara. That's right. On the side of my Gemara is a comment from the Gra. we said before that if someone appeases he gets 11 brachas, right? Gets 11 brachas. Now, this fellow gets 11 brachas for all 8 people that he helped sustain. That's 88. 11 times 8. That's 88, right? So then he has some source that says that each bracha gives him 3 months to live. So 88 brachas times 3 is 264 months that he gets. Now 264 months divided by 12, this comes out to 22. He gets basically, that's a long car loan, 264 months. That's gets the 22 years is this is the 11 times 3 times 8.
That's the thought.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So this is more complex. Okay. So Taner Rabbanu was starting to Bryce Maisa Munbaz Hamelach story with Munbaz. Munbaz was the son of Hilani, Queen Hilani. And there's we have that in that Gemara and the Mishnah and Yuma, different things that they donated to the temple. They were converts. The Hilani converted and Munbaz converted.
This is the king of Abiyah.
Yeah.
She was a Nazarite, right? Helen.
Yeah. 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 So I don't know where that was. That was like Turkey area, or was it? I think she converted and became a Nazarite. Yeah, but I'm not sure. That's a good question. That's a good question. I'm not sure. It was a time of famine, and he just gave away all his wealth, all the treasures that his family had collected for generations. His brothers in his father's household, they ganged up against him. This has been a collection. There's like the crown jewels, it's like this has been in what's it called in London? Is that what it's called, the crown jewels, like this? This is we've been collecting this for generations, and now you're just giving it away because of a famine. Amar lahem, he said to them, they were collecting it down here, but I'm collecting it above in heaven. The truth sprouts from the earth, and righteousness from heaven looks down. My fathers hid it in a place that the hand can affect it, and someone could steal it. But I put it in a place where no hand can control it. Which, as it says, righteousness and judgment is the place of your throne. They put it in a place that it doesn't reproduce. And I put it in a place where it gives off fruit. As it says, say the righteous because it's good, that the fruits of their actions they will eat. I guess it means because he has people survive, so the fruits continue. They just collected money, but I collected souls. The fruits of the tzaddik is tree of life, and someone that acquires souls is wise. My fathers, they collected all this money for others, I guess for future generations. And I collected it for myself. For me, it's considered acts of kindness. They collected it in this world. I collected it in the world to come. And righteousness will go before you.
Tzedakah, a lot of tzedakah right now. You benefit in the world to come.
Right.
It's almost a way of living past your life.
Right.
Is that true?
Yeah. Okay. This is the sugya of tzedakah. Now we go back to Baba Basra. Huh?
2 out of 6.
2 out of 6. Tell me more about that. What do you mean? It said there were six blessings, right? And which 2?
Where it says, and your charity shall go before you, as one end of your order thou shalt be your reward.
Uh-huh.
The second, referring back to the 90 for the 6.
Mhm. This was a quote from the Yeshaya 58. And over here we have Yeshaya 58 at the end. Okay. Right. Okay. Okay. Now it says in Kanaba Bestira Hariokanchi, we said that when does a person have to contribute to the wall and to the gates that they've set up in the city? That's only if they're a member of the city. That means if they were there for 12 months. However, it says that if someone bought a property, so then they're considered a member of the city even under 12 months, even right away if they bought a property. Now, who said that? Who said that? That was the Mishnah. That was the Mishnah. There was no machlekes about that. The Mishnah says 12 months. He buys a property, becomes immediately a member of the city. There was a brisa that spoke about 30 days. That was something else. But in the Mishnah, it just said this. The Gemara says, "Mastisin like Reb Shimon ben Gamliel." The Mishnah doesn't fit with Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. The time it was started in brisa, Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, Merkana Bakarka Kolshu, Yokan Sheir. See, we said that you have to buy not just a property, a house. Here it says any land. Any land could be a field. It doesn't have to be a house. But Tanya, we have a brisa, Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, only if it's a property that's fit to build a house on, that's considered then that he's a member of the city, and then he has to contribute. Well, the Gemara says, there's different traditions about what Reb Shimon ben Gamliel said.
It has a notice of even if it's not suitable.
That's the first opinion. Second opinion says only if it's suitable for a house. How do we have that? The Gemara answers there's two students that had different traditions about what Reb Shimon ben Gamliel held. Yeah. Now it says in Cholkin when it comes to a courtyard, or it comes to anything that you want to divide, you own in partnership. So one of them says, "I don't want this partnership anymore. I want to split it up." You know, the kids always make they get let's say chocolates or cookies or something. So they join together with someone else that has a little bit more than them, and they say, "Let's share it all together." They put it all together, and then they hope that in the end they're going to get more. It usually ends up in the fight. But so anyway, if people own things together, so at a certain point they say, "Okay, now let's divide it up. Let's divide it up." So if when they divide it up, there's not going to be a suitable amount for either of them because it's too small, then one person can't compel the other one to divide. They say, "No, we have to use it together. We can't." They own a car together. You know, what are we going to do? You cut it in half? But you can't do that. You have to share it, and you keep owning it like that. It's a partnership. Maybe you use it one day, you use it another day, use it in the morning, use it at night. You're right.
Is it a mitzvah to share like that?
Could be, but you can't force the other person to divide. You can't force him to divide because he's not going to have. Each one won't be able to have anything useful. So, what's the size of a courtyard that's useful? So we say it's 4 cubits for each one, which would mean 8 cubits, right? 4 cubits for each one. And also a field, unless you can plant enough that you can plant 9 kav of seed, which is a certain area. Otherwise, it's not fit to divide it up because it's too small. Give a little, each one a little thing. Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Yehuda says that 9 half kabin, smaller area. Rabbi Yehuda was very poor, by the way. So and if it's a garden, you need to have at least a half a kav for each one. Rabbi Kiva says, even smaller than that. A Beis Reva. Rabbi Kiva was very wealthy, but there were times in his life when he was poor. He says, even if it's a quarter of a cup. V'leas a traklen, not a large chamber. V'leas muran is another type of chamber. V'leas a shevach, not a birdhouse. V'leas a talis, not a garment. V'leas a merchatz, not a bathhouse. V'leas beis abad, not an olive press. V'leas beis shlachim, and not a field that gets watered, that has a spring in it, that you can take the water and water it whenever you want. Unless there's enough enough area for each of them to be able to plant a significant amount. It doesn't say by the Beis Shlachim that it needs to be 9 kav, because there's other things that you can plant there because you're able to water it on your own, so you can plant other things even if they're not like things that you would plant in a field. The rule is kol she'chalak u'shmeilav chalkan, anything that if you divide it up, it will still maintain the name that it had before. It's called the courtyard, it's called the garden, it's called the olive press, whatever it's going to be called, will still, each side of it is still going to be called that. Then you can divide it up. But if it's not going to be considered that, divide the olive press up and you say, okay, well, at least you can use it to store, your tools, because whatever, so that's not an olive press anymore, then it's not, you can't divide it. When do we say this? Is when they don't want to divide it up. Only one of them wants to divide it. Then we have this rule. The other guy can say, I can't divide it. However, Bisman's name writes him. But if they both want, I feel they can split a car in half and say, look, for the junkyard, I want a half a car, you want a half a car. So they're allowed to split if they both agree. Because when it comes to scrolls, holy scrolls, Alpish's name writes me, if they want to, they're not allowed to divide it up. Let's say they both each wanted half a car.
As a wife.
They're gonna fight, or
no, he wants half a car because they each have these collections. Amar Rabasi, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. There's going to be a Gemara coming up about if when they want to divide like that, one takes the money and one takes the. Rabasi says, when you divide a courtyard, you can only divide the courtyard after each doorway already has 4 cubits in front of the door, because when you come up to the door, you have to be able to unload your things. So there needs to be an entranceway to the door, and then after that, so you need to have not just the whole courtyard is 4 cubits plus 4 cubits for each one. No, each doorway needs to have 4 cubits and 4 cubits, and then you want to divide the courtyard. You need another 4 cubits for each. You need 8 amas for each one. We said you only need 4. That's because we're following Rabasi. Rabasi says you need 4 plus 4 because you need the doorway. Some pose this as a contradiction. It says in a Mishnah, you need 4 amas for each one. But we have a brisa that says you need 8 amas. Amar Rabasi, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Rabasi says name of Rabbi Yochanan. You said 4. You weren't talking about the other 4 that you need in front of the doorway. Amar Rav Huna. I'm going to have a machlekes amirayim. When you divide a courtyard, how is it divided? One person has a big house, one person has a small house, that has a lot of people in the house. How do you divide the courtyard? If they're just, courtyard means that there's houses in it, and then there's a courtyard, a common area, but you're dividing up. So if each of them are exactly the same, then okay, we'll divide it in half. But let's say there's differences in the houses. So it goes like this. Puna says that the courtyard is divided according to how many doors there are. That means if one house has 3 doors or 2 doors, he's going to get 2/3 of the courtyard. Another one is only going to get 1, like a driveway. A garage, you need more area to go to your driveway. So he's they divide it according to the doors. Rav Chisda says no. The door gets 4 amas. If you have 2 doors, you get 4 amas for each door. But the rest of the courtyard is divided equally. You don't just split the whole courtyard based on the doors. That's Rav Chisda's view. Tanya Rav Chisda, we have a source for Rav Chisda, Brisa. It says each doorway gets 4 amas. If one house has 1 door, another house has 2 doors, one that has 1 door gets 4 cubits. One that has 2 doors gets 8 amas. And the rest of the courtyard you divide equally. That's what Rav Chisda held. Can I get a Pesach? So let's say this door was so wide that it was 8 amas wide. It says he gets 8. He gets 8 amas. Gets 8 amas of the along the door, plus 4 amas in the courtyard. Mar says Arbamas b'chatzer maya b'detay. What do you mean 4 amas of the courtyard? Amar Abai explains Achikam. What it means is leitl shma amas bayrach. Get 4 amas length, and bayrach hachatzer v'arbamas b'reicha v'chatzer. But outward it's always 4 amas plus so you measure 4 amas into the courtyard along the length of the door, which could be 8 amas. Okay. Amar Meimar says, "Hi Pera de Sufli." There's a pit of date pits. This was used for animal food, but they used to eat dates a lot, and they had this thing that they would collect, like we would call it a compost, but it was the animals would eat this. You have to give, if someone has a pit like that, you have to give them 4 amas all around, because the animals have to be able to stand there and be able to, so from each side. But this is only if there's no doorway that goes directly to it. But if there's a doorway that goes directly to it, you'd only have the 4 cubits that go in front of the doorway, because you're only approaching it from one side. Amar Rav Huna says, Achsadra ein la dalet amas. Achsadra, Rashi translates as a portico. I never would have known portico except because my teacher in 4th grade had Achsadra, and he translated portico. Portico is an awning. It's a in front of a store, like they have the thing that comes down to protect the people from the rain.
It's the 8 amas. You have a door. You have 4 amas. So that includes like to go to the pathway or whatever. That includes like 2 amas.
It's actually 4 by 4.
Or is it square amas?
Yeah, 4 square. It's not 2 by 2. It's 4 square. You get 4 amas because that would be enough for it to unload an animal. The animals would come up to the doorway with packages. That would be considered your area that you can use to unload. Otherwise, you can't unload your stuff if it's not your property, right? To get your stuff off of my property. Every time you show up with your animal to unload, the guy's going to say, "Get out of here."
It's kind of like the equivalent of having a parking spot, I guess.
Yeah, it's like a parking spot, right? A pavilion. Okay, so Achsadra here, they're translating as pavilion. Achsadra does not. The Achsadra doesn't get 4 cubits in front of it. Taimamai. What's the reason? Mishum Pirik Masai. The whole reason why you get 4 amas is because you want to unload. You can go into the pavilion with the animal and unload over there. You don't get a parking spot in front of your garage, right? You only get, if you have a garage, then you have the garage. That's where you unload. Here you're saying you want another 4. No, you can go inside. Most of Rav Sheish says the question. We have a brisa that says no. The gates of the houses and the gates of the pavilions get 4 cubits. That's a special achsadra. Sounds like in front of the yeshiva that was actually closed off. It has walls around it. Why is it called a pavilion? Because it had open windows. That's a regular room. Of course, that gets in front of it 4 amas. We're talking about a Roman achsadra, Roman pavilion, where it has low walls that are there, so it looks more open. You say that it has columns? Yeah, Rashi doesn't say that. Okay. Tanarabanan, it's fine. I'm fine with it. Okay. If there's an entrance house like that gatehouse that we spoke about, or a pavilion, or a merpeset is a balcony that for these hotels, those old hotels in Miami, they had you would walk upstairs and then you walk it's an outdoor an outdoor balcony that you go, right? You know what I'm saying? Those little hotels, those two-story hotels, all were outdoors. That's would be a merpeset. Yeshlam dalet amas, but there's 4 cubits. You see at the end of the staircase, at the end of the ladder, on the bottom of the ladder, that has 4 cubits there. You're looking at the Beirav. Look at the one with the Roman one. Let's say there's 5 houses open to this doorway. You only get one set of 4 amas at the bottom of the ladder, or the bottom of the stairs. Every person can use that to unload. What about a chicken coop? Does a chicken coop get 4 cubits? It's amalei time. What's the reason why you need it? Because to unload. But the chickens can jump up and down. They don't need that. Okay, let's stop up here.
Yeah. We should have sort of like in the middle area.
Yeah, they have that also. I'm just talking about like there's one staircase that takes you up to everything upstairs.
Oh yeah, it was.
So on the bottom of that staircase, that was 4 cubits. For everyone over there that wants to unload their packages, that's the 4 cubits for them. We don't say that there's 4 cubits for every house that's up there.
I think it's
Okay, have a good day.